Hi guys, welcome to your composition class. Today we are going to talk about discourse communities. And we are going to analyze this article about understanding discourse community through this video. Remember to read this article after you watch the video to do the activity for the class. To understand what is a discourse community, we need to know what it is, right? So remember that a discourse community is a community that has the same goal and the same thing to share, right? And then they have a specific way of communication. For example, if I'm part of a Spanish club, right? We will have a specific goal that is learning how to speak Spanish. Maybe some of my classmates they will have a higher level and they might have a basic level, so they will help me to improve my Spanish skills. So that's basically a discourse community. They will have the same goal, right? To that is maybe in this case is learning how to speak Spanish, and then they will share some point and help us community for the same goal. Okay, that's a discourse community. So here I have an example. I mentioned before the Spanish club. Over here I have the fitness discourse community map. They will have the same goal. What is the same goal for the fitness community? Maybe it's to do exercise right in a specific time. They will have a way to communicate. They will have a specific language, right? And a specific vocabulary. They will use maybe the vocabulary for the fitness community. And the idea of this is that you know that the discourse community will have the same goal, the same method of communication, the same genera, and the same lexis, okay? Where you can find this information in our article. Remember that we are kind of analyzing the article in this class. So the author in our article for today, he put an example in how the discourse community will be the guitar community, how to learn to play an instrument, in this case a guitar. So he participated in that, and the goal of them is to become a better player, right? And how can he participate in this community? If you can see how the author support his argument with a real world example, that's how can you write and how can you analyze a discourse community. Remember, but at the end of this semester, we will write an essay about our discourse community. If we are part of the volleyball team, to the basketball team, we will analyze that community and we will write an essay about it. Okay? So, according to the article, we will have 6 characteristics for the discourse communities. Okay, so I will show you the 6 characteristics that we will have, but try to make a connection when you are writing, right, about your discourse community, or when you are watching this class, try to make the connection between your discourse community and the information for the class. The first characteristic of a discourse community is they will have a same goal, right? As the author mentioned, he was part of the guitar team, right? He want to learn how to play a guitar, so the same goal that they have is to become a better player, right? If you are part of a volleyball team or you are part of an Spanish club, your goal will be improving your Spanish skills, right? The second one, you have to have a mechanism of communication, or how can you communicate with your community, right? For example, you will have a Facebook group, you will have a meetup group, you will have a WhatsApp group, a FaceTime group. So, but you need to keep your communication, because maybe you will play basketball just on Monday, but then you need to practice, or you need to communicate with your community, with your basketball community. So you need a way to communicate with them. In this case, the author, they have Meetup website to communicate with each other and to give like some information about how can they improve to play the guitar. It's very interesting to see the example. So the third characteristic that we have is if we have a way to communicate and we can improve our maybe Spanish skills, or we will focus in Spanish. So we will receive some feedback for our classmates. That's why it's a community. In that way, you can improve how to speak Spanish, right? In this case, the authors show us that they messaged one another and then how they improve their playing guitar or the playing skills. So giving feedback from one to other is another way to learn and to improve, and that's why a discourse community is so important in our society, right? So the way that the author put the example is the way that you can analyze when you are part of a community, of a team, right? And maybe the ways that you need to improve. Maybe you need to improve in the Spanish club, maybe some verbs or the structure or the grammar or the listening. And my classmate is good at the listening skills, so you can help each other. So that's another characteristics of a discourse community, the feedback that you will receive. The four characteristics that the author show us that is important in our discourse communities is the genera. The genera basically is the message or the vocabulary that you need to use to communicate with your discourse community, right? For example, if you are learning another language, we will still with the Spanish club, right? So you will practice Spanish and you will have that language, right? But if you are learning how to play a guitar, like in this case, you will need to use that kind of vocabulary, right? So if you are learning how to play basketball, volleyball, right, and you are in that community, you need to learn the vocabulary that you will use for them. The genera is the principal vocabulary. For example, if you are learning another language, the Spanish vocabulary, the English vocabulary, if you are learning English, or if you are learning how to play the guitar, in this case, that kind of vocabulary. Okay? In this case, the author show like the specific lexes that we will use in order to understand the members of the group. Maybe if you are part of the Spanish club, right? But you have a basic level, you will use another kind of vocabulary because you will have short vocabulary for that. But if you are going to talk with a person that has higher level or another level, right? And they start talking with you and then you don't understand, that's why the specific lexis it's important. The specific terms that you will use in your discourse community. Okay? If you are in a basic level, you will use that kind of vocabulary. If you are on a higher level, you will use that kind of vocabulary when you are learning another language. In this case, with the guitar, he was learning how to play guitar, right? Basic level, how you can use that kind of words. In that way, you will understand, okay, I will use the accords and the notes and everything because I need to know that one, right? So when you are part of a discourse community, remember to take into account the context of each person, right? And in that way, you will help them. Okay? So the next characteristic that the author mentioned is the threshold level and export members. So he mentioned that it's important that the one that has a higher level, for example, in the Spanish community, right, in a Spanish club, if you have a higher level, you will also help the ones that doesn't have that kind of level, right? And take into account the language that you will use because maybe the ones that has the basic Spanish level, right? They will need more knowledge, right? So that's why it's a community. For example, if you are a part of the Spanish club and you have a higher level, you will help the other ones that doesn't have that kind of level. But remember to use a specific vocabulary with them, right? Same when you are learning maybe how to play a piano, how to play a guitar in this case. So you will have a basic knowledge, or maybe you know how to play the guitar, but you want to improve, right? But the ones in the community that they don't have any idea, they just start to play a guitar, you can help them with new knowledge, right? That's why it's a community. So why the discourse community is important in our writing skills? Because if you are going to write for a specific file or for a specific class, right, you will have to take into account your writing style. It's not the same when you write an academic paper or an informal paper, right? That's why we want you guys to understand your discourse community. Your discourse community can be your major, right? You are part of the animal science, or you are part of the education department, or you are part of the English one, right? So that's, you have your own genera, you have your own vocabulary, and maybe you are in the first semester, but you have classmates from the second semester or for the third one. You are part of a community, and you are part of that community that can help to grow, right? When you write, your writing skills and your writing style is important. Why? Because it defines how are you going to pursue your audience. If you are going to write for a first semester students, right, you will use another kind of vocabulary for the ones that are already maybe in a graduate level, right? That's why the discourse community it's important, and it's important if you writing style. Okay. So remember that the author says like why this discourse community topic is important in higher education. You have different kind of sources. You have different kinds of goals. You have different kinds of measures. So in that way, you have to take into account always your context when you write and your style, okay? And the requirements as well. For example, if you are going to write your thesis, you will have a specific requirements. But if you are going to write an informal paper for your writing class, it's another kind of vocabulary, another kind of style, right? Another kind of discourse community. So the reflection that the author gave us is this one. You will find it in the essay that we have for the class. But I want you guys to think that the discourse community is important, right, in all of our areas. Most important thing is that you have to take into account your context when you have to write, right? The genre when you are going to write, and that if you are part of a discourse community, it's important that you can see maybe your major as a community, right? A community of learning, a community of can help you with the things that you don't know, right? A community of knowledge. Okay. So remember that we have a lot of discourse communities around us. And remember that you will write about your discourse community at the end of the semester. So I have over here an example that you can follow, right? We have a discourse community at work if you are working, and the school and friends and family. And then if you see this example, every single discourse community have an specific characteristics. So this is kind of a community map. So you will have common goals, right? Values, and then a specific vocabulary that you will use. And then the writing styles, right? For each. For example, when you are in working, right? You have a specific kind of writing style. When you are in the school, you have a specific writing style. Depends of the subject, depends of the course that you are taking. When you are talking with your friends by Snapchat, you have a specific writing style. When you are with your family, maybe you are more formal and you have a specific writing style. So the discourse community will help us to identify what is our writing style, but also to take into account our contents when we have to write. Okay? Thank you so much for coming to this class, and I will see you in the class activity.